Hey everyone, it's Zane, and today I'm going to be reviewing How to Be a Boss by Lilly Singh. For those of you who don't know, Lilly Singh is a social media mogul or internet personality who has over 11 million subscribers on YouTube. On top of that, she sings, she dances, she acts, she basically does it all. I've actually been following Lilly Singh for like 6 years before this book was released, so my love for this book is partly colored by that fact. With that being said, I genuinely believe that you can get so much from this book even if you have no idea who Lilly Singh is. The book is essentially a compilation of advice that Lilly Singh has developed over the years. It ranges from how to develop yourself personally, professionally, and how to develop yourself from a mental health standpoint. I wasn't exactly sure how to structure this review just because it's a nonfiction, so I can't do my whole plot, characters, writing kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is go over what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I'm going to be sharing 2 tips from the book. In terms of what I liked, basically everything in this book. I just found that the advice was extremely applicable. Right after reading a section in this book, I would apply the advice to my life, and it ended up being really, really effective. It was just a super motivating read, and for that reason I had to give it 5 out of 5 stars. Another thing I really enjoyed was the format. You have the tip or the chapter name, and then Lilly goes on to explain what the tip means, and then she gives an example of how that tip can be applied to her life or everyday life in general. In terms of what I didn't like, I feel as though if you don't know who Lilly Singh is, she might come across as a little bit overconfident or arrogant even, just because she is trying to teach you how to be the best version of yourself, and to do that she has to say how she became and how she is the best version of herself. Again, the only thing I can say to this is I've watched like hundreds of her vlogs. She is not arrogant, she's not overconfident, she is truly a genuine person, and she just exudes confidence, and I think that isn't something to be, ashamed of. Also, from where she began as someone who struggled with mental health so much to where she is now, I think it is really quite inspiring, and I can see why someone like that exudes such confidence. Another thing is I feel like if you don't know who Lilly is, again, the humor might not connect in the same way as it does in her videos. Even for me, I've watched Lilly Singh's videos, I know who she is. The humor didn't translate as well through text as it does through her videos. I still really, really enjoyed the book though, and I feel like if the humor wasn't there, it would have become a little bit stale. Now, I guess I'll be jumping into a spoilery section. I'm going to be sharing a couple of tips from the book. The first tip is climb the ladder. Now, this concept seems pretty obvious. It's just the idea that to get to where you want to be, you have to start off somewhere. For example, Lilly talks about how to meet someone who had a lot more subscribers than her at one point, she had to jump through a lot of hoops, including flying to a completely different country. But she was really able to pick this person's brain and find out how this person got to be so successful. It really emphasized the idea of seeing people above you on the ladder as resources instead of as competition. I found myself applying this tip without even realizing it before I even read this section of the book. I was commenting on a booktuber who had about 10,000 subscribers at the time. All I said was, I really enjoyed your video, and I kind of explained why. A few days later, this same booktuber took the time to comment on one of my videos and even gave me advice on how to improve my channel. I just thought this was such an amazing gesture, even though it was kind of small on his part probably. I just thought it was really, really nice of him. I think this really emphasizes the idea that people above you are able to help you in a lot of ways, and you don't necessarily need to be jealous of them, or you don't need to see them as competition. And then of course, the idea of just working hard to get to where you need to be is a really great concept in and of itself. The second and final tip I want to share is say what you mean. Lilly describes LA as a land of empty words, and that people a lot of the times say things that they don't really mean. She talks about how you'll meet someone who you don't really know that well, and at the end of the conversation they'll be like, love you, I'll see you for coffee soon. It's like, you're never gonna see that person for coffee, and it's like, what's the reason for saying something that doesn't really make sense or something that you don't really mean? Lilly talks about how instead of saying this, you can say something like, hey, it was nice seeing you, I hope I run into you again. This kind of response is just a lot more honest and genuine. She also talks about how she used this tip in regards to her co-workers and even her friends. If she had to blow off a friend because she had a gig, she would say something like, I'm really sorry I can't see you. Please don't take this as me not wanting to see you. I simply have to do something else. Something along those lines, instead of just saying, hey, sorry, can't make it, see you next time kind of thing. It's just people are so afraid of being open and honest these days, just because there are so many barriers that we put up through social media and, trying to appear strong. The way I found myself applying this very recently was a friend texted me and a friend called me quite recently, and I was doing relatively okay, but there was still something on my mind that I wanted to talk about. So when the people texted and called me, my initial reaction when they asked how are you was to say, I'm doing well, but obviously, I had something on my mind that I wanted to talk about. So I did, and even though I had to get over that initial reaction of just saying, hi, I'm good, and then having a superficial conversation, it was still very much worth it. Just the idea of not being afraid to speak your mind when the situation warrants it is something that is really, really valuable. If a close friend or family member does ask you how you are, why not tell them, how you are actually feeling? Another extension of this that Lilly talked about was say what you mean, but don't say it mean. I think this is just a really cool concept just because there's a way you can deal with conflict and issues without hurting the other person's feeling. And I think Lilly talks about this in a really eloquent way. She talks about how with her assistant, she had to say, hey, you know what? You're not doing everything that you could be doing, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having an assistant. These are the ways that you can improve. It's just about communication skills and how to talk to someone in a proper way. Now, I said I'd be sharing 2 tips, but there is one quote that I want to share that really resonated with me. I Snapchatted it, and every single person I snapped it to replied saying, yes, that's so true. People will forget what you said and did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. I think this was so profound, and I'm so happy I came across this quote because it's so true. I can think of so many people where I don't exactly remember what their comments were, but the fact that they took the time to comment on my videos made me remember them and made me remember how I felt when they took the time to make that comment. I think this was just such a great quote. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it really just resonated with me, and I guess the takeaway with that was make people feel good because that's what they're going to remember from you. So yeah, guys, that was my review of How to Be a Boss. I am so sorry if the last part just went down in flames. It is very, very hot, but I wanted to film really bad, so here we are. If you guys have anything you want to say about How to Be a Boss or this review, please leave a comment below, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. I post new videos sometimes, so if you want to be notified for when I post a new video, please be sure to hit subscribe, and I will see you soon with a new video.